One of my favourite things about RPGs has always been its minigames. Some games go all out in this area, and I love taking a break from the main story and spending hours when I find a good one. This is my personal top 10 list, so some of the criteria I factored in was how much fun I had with them, how many hours of my life they stole, how complex their mechanics are, and the in-game rewards that are given when playing them. I'd like to know what your favourite minigames of all time are, so feel free to leave me a comment below. Here we go. Spheda is a minigame that doesn't seem to get mentioned too often. Maybe that's because not enough people have played Dark Cloud 2, or perhaps because this game can be quite frustrating. Essentially, Spheda is golf with sphere fragments. The aim is to hit a sphere through the environment and land it in a time distortion. It's not quite that easy though, as you'll have to account for the colour of the sphere when it hits the distortion, and this can be done by hitting it against the wall first. Spheda can take quite a bit of strategy, as there's also different clubs as well as spins, hooks and slices that can be applied to your shots. Overall, I had a lot of fun with this and thought that it did a great job in putting a twist on golf. The Shenmue series is littered with minigames that can be played by Ryo. However, the one minigame that really stood out for me and many fans is the Forklift Racing from Shenmue 1. I still don't know who came up with this, but it is awesome. So fun in fact that I now consider myself a professional forklift driver. You can choose to either race a number of laps around each course against other drivers or pick up and drop off cargo around the harbour. I know it seems simple and that it's nowhere near as complex as some of the other minigames on this list, but it's just so wacky that it deserves a spot. Oh, and recently Shenmue 3 brought this back to some extent, but it wasn't the same. Long live the Shenmue 1 Forklift Racing. I'm currently playing through the Zena Saga series again, and the one minigame that really stands out in the series is Zena Card. The complexities of this minigame is enough to rival real trading card games, but once you learn the ins and outs, you'll be hooked. There are loads of cards to collect of different types, rarities, and in-game functions, which makes building your 40 card deck so strategic. These cards can be collected by buying booster packs, and the feeling of opening one and finding a new rare card that you wanted is awesome. The only issue I have with this game is that there's no reward for playing it. You can participate in tournaments, but there's no incentive to do so. I would have loved to see some strong in-game rewards for winning. The Kingdom Hearts series features loads of planets to explore, and travelling between these planets is done in your gummy ship. I really liked what Kingdom Hearts 2 did with this minigame. After collecting the required gummy parts, you can use them to build your own personalised ship, which can be used to travel between these planets. The coolest thing here is that adding different parts will add different functions to your ship, allowing you to create some absolutely crazy ship designs. There is a lot to take on here too, as each route has multiple missions of varying difficulty, and completing these at different ranks will provide different rewards. The Witcher 3 is amazing, so why not make it even more amazing by including a massive 2-player turn-based card game? I seriously could not get enough of Gwent. You start by customizing your deck from loads of cards that you obtain around the world, each having its own strengths, weaknesses, and abilities in battle. This minigame was so good that the developers decided to release it as a standalone free-to-play title that allows you to battle out against other players around the world. I swear, Gwent is almost as addictive as that toss a coin to your Witcher song. Final Fantasy VII introduced mass minigames in RPGs to many players around the world. I'm talking about the Golden Saucer, a massive in-game amusement park full of loads of optional minigames. There are too many to go into here, but I'm going to go with the one that stood out for me the most: Chocobo Racing. It wasn't just racing them that was awesome, it was catching them and breeding them into the godly golden chocobo, which allows you to access some of the strongest items in the game. I really cannot wait to see what they do with the Golden Saucer and Chocobo Racing in the remake. There are loads of RPGs out there that have their own fishing minigame, but none comes close to the enjoyment that I had with Breath of Fire 4's fishing. Okay, Breath of Fire 3's was pretty good too, but I felt that this one took it to the next level. There's a lot of complexity with this fishing system. To catch all of the fish types, you'll need to consider bait, fishing locations, and even where you cast your line. In addition, reeling in your line with certain rhythms will increase the odds of catching fish. I recently played through Breath of Fire 4 again and was completely addicted to this minigame. I was not only dedicated to catching king-size versions of each fish type, but also enough specific fish to cash in for powerful equipment. Best fishing game ever. Before we get into my top 3 minigames, here are some more awesome games that don't quite make the cut but are still worth mentioning. First, we have a game that I didn't really like. However, its one redeeming quality is its dating minigame. The main character, Mice, is able to go on dates with members of his party or certain NPCs around the world. The purpose of this is to increase your intimacy level with the girl, which determines the power of forged weapons. Each date involves talking to your girl and choosing responses to various questions. The success of the date will depend on what responses you choose. Some of the conversation topics are hilarious, as are some of the responses you can select. There is only one reason I would recommend playing Thousand Arms, and this is it.
What does love mean to you? That's wonderful, Mice. Tell me more about your dream.
I can't create a top minigame list without mentioning Chocobo Hot and Cold from Final Fantasy IX. You can start this massive side quest minigame after you acquire a Chocobo. By doing so, you'll be able to enter the Chocobo Forest and eventually other locations in the game. Here you can begin a minigame which requires you to dig up items within a time limit. The points that you earn while playing this game can be exchanged for items, but the main incentive to play is to dig up chocographs, which provide clues for rare treasures that are hidden on the world map, some of which are incredibly useful. While on the topic of FF9 minigames, I'll also make a mention to Tetra Master, which is the original card game from Final Fantasy IX. This minigame has its moments, and collecting all of the cards was fun, but I didn't have close to the enjoyment with this that I had with other RPG card games. I know I've just mentioned the Breath of Fire 4 fishing minigame, but the one in Final Fantasy 15 definitely deserves a mention too. The mechanics are pretty similar between the two games, with different locations, lures and equipment being key considerations. This time, however, it gets a little more complicated as you need to factor in the time of day and weather conditions too. Catching fish will reward you with cooking ingredients and new recipes, and this minigame is also a requirement for certain side quests. Triple Triad. While this one isn't as complex as some of the other card games on this list, it is my favourite, and I have easily put more time into this than all of the other card games combined. After choosing 5 cards from your deck, or having 5 chosen randomly, the objective is to finish the game with more cards at your colour than your opponent's. To flip your opponent's cards, you simply need to place a card next to it with a higher number. Sounds simple, but when you add in the massive amount of other rules such as same, plus and elements, things start to get very strategic. There are hundreds of NPCs to challenge all around the world, some of which even have powerful one-of-a-kind cards. There is so much reward for playing Triple Triad too, as these cards can be refined into powerful items or spells. Just talking about this makes me want to load up FF8 and do it all over again. I know that a lot of my subscribers are huge Suikoden fans, so for them it'll come to no surprise to see the Suikoden 2 cooking minigame so high on the list. These cook-offs are a one-on-one battle against an opposing chef. You need to use your recipes and ingredients that you've collected around the world and choose a 3-course meal for your judges. The catch is that each judge has their own likes and dislikes and will rate your dishes based on this. This is pretty impressive considering the insane number of recruitable characters in each Suikoden game. It is such a good feeling to see those tight victories after seeing the points totaled up in the end. This cooking contest also comes with a side quest revolving around the chef Hai-Yo, and this provides plenty of incentive to participate in as many cook-offs as possible. The true crime here is that this amazing minigame was not seen in any of the other Suikoden titles. I I know that this next one isn't for everyone, but to me, Blitzball is worthy of the #1 spot. If you're unfamiliar, Blitzball is a stat-based sports game set in a giant sphere of water. The idea itself is crazy, as it's something that we would never see in the real world, but I think that this insanity adds to the charm. My favourite thing about this amazing minigame is that you can actually recruit NPCs from all around the world, offer them contracts, and customize your team to your liking. Each player also has their own strengths, weaknesses, and techniques, which gives you a lot to think about when customizing your team and during each match. My only criticism with this game is that it gets far too easy after a certain point. Your team continues to grow into statistical beasts while your opponents lag behind. In any case, Blitzball was amazing, and its depth and sports-like mechanics make it my favourite minigame of all time. And that concludes my top 10 RPG minigames of all time. Do you agree with these choices? Did I miss anything good? Let me know in the comments below. This was Hellfire RPGs, thanks for watching. If you liked this, hit like and sub for more RPG content. See you next time.